Why is leadership so afraid? Is this really about this idea that it's going to divide the base of the party from sort of the moderate wing of the party? Is that the fear that an election year, I mean, is this a pure political calculus?
You know, there's certainly a goal to get 218 Republicans on a bill and pass this as a Republican-only bill. My goal is to find an American solution, and that means both parties working together. I think you also have to be a realist that to get 60 votes in the Senate, it's going to have to be bipartisan as well. So if you want to make law, I think that working across the aisle and getting Republicans and Democrats to come together is a good thing.
So before we get more people coming across, and border security nobody takes seriously because it's always been a joke, why shouldn't we know how many are here? And why isn't Congress determined to find out how many are here? It seems like kind of a baseline issue.
Yeah, Tucker, rather than just doing a census to figure out how many people are here, why don't we stop them from coming here in the first place? Doing nothing means another 500,000 people will cross our border every single year. I've been in the majority now for 8 years. That's 4 million people. Shouldn't we stop right now and actually do what the president's asking us for? Even something that the Democrats had proposed a few years ago, and actually provide the funding, build the border security, do the surveillance, make sure that we actually have a guarantee to the American public that we've stopped this influx across our southern border.
In the wake of this derailment and the tragedy there, what questions are you asking?
I think the biggest question that the American public wants to know is how could this happen? So certainly we are seeing investigative teams going out, including having the Federal Rail Administrator, Sarah Feinberg, going out to look at this. We want answers. And we're looking at, we've been looking at safety throughout the last several years on how do you improve safety. In this case, we certainly want to know how this happened so that we can make sure it doesn't happen again.
The change in climate has had some impact on all of your very agricultural state. So what do you think about this agreement with China, which has already been criticized by Senate Republicans?
Well, I think goals are good, but it's going to come down to the regulation, and again, executive order by this president on EPA. I mean, the cleanest form of energy is hydro energy. We should be looking at more water storage, which would help an area like ours, greater clean energy and getting water moving to our farm and our farming communities.
You want to do away with the GSA entirely, perhaps? Why?
Well, I just think the private industry can do it better and cheaper. GSA is in charge of all of our public buildings. They're supposed to be liquidating these properties that have been sitting vacant for decades, and they've sold 82 properties in the last decade. Private industry could have sold thousands of the vacant properties overnight. So I want to see redevelopment, I want to see jobs, and I think it can be done better by private industry.
What do you make of the fact, Congressman, that HHS is now saying that it's not going to be providing updates on the number of children separated from their parents under the zero tolerance policy, that they say it's day by day, it changes day by day, sometimes hour by hour, and because of that, they're no longer going to be providing a breakdown of when these kids get back with their parents?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's unimaginable that you would ever separate or pull kids away from their parents. But secondly, I think the parents have a right to know. The American public has a right to know, specifically if the reunification process is happening. At what point are we in that process? Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? Are there more people being separated? But HHS, who's supposed to have these lists, ought to be able to make them public. And if they can't make them public for you know, some of the details and privacy of these kids, they ought to certainly let Congress know, who's supposed to be crafting a law right now in a bipartisan fashion to address this very issue.
I wonder if you think there are lessons for your party, you know, for the ensuing 2 years and for the next election about what it means to be tied so closely to President Trump's version of policy on immigration, and if there's a danger for your party here.
You know, there were certainly some unique issues in this campaign. I would say health care was probably the biggest that was used across the country, and including in California. But on immigration, it's a difficult issue. I knew that when I took it on. When we pushed the discharge petition, I knew how tough it was going to be, not only in the primary, where it got used against me, but it also got used against me in the general, because we didn't actually accomplish the full reform that we were looking at. But it's still something not only am I proud of, but something that needs to get done in a bipartisan fashion. Our bill was not dissimilar to what the Gang of Eight bill was that came out of the Senate that had every Democrat on board. So regardless of who's in charge, I think the other party is going to use this as an issue that is very divisive.
The discharge petition, that's the maneuver, isn't it?
Yes, which we have a Republican majority. We control all of the rules. The leader controls the floor debate. Paul Ryan has his own bill. The president has a bill. Goodlatte has a bill. And yes, the Democrats get a bill too, but ultimately we're going to do what the president is asking for and give him border security, because we cannot wait any longer. You know, look, every year that goes by, another 500,000 people come across our southern border. So the 8 years that Sean and I have been in office together, that's 4 million people from doing nothing.
Yes,
it is time to act, and this president's asking for action.
Look at it.